Where's the EQ on the reverb? Delay time? Turn up the feedback. Wait. Pan the condenser to the left and the dynamic to the right. Lower the threshold. Raise the output. Wait. Set the frequency range. High pass. Welcome to the Lady Audio Radio Show. Our guest today is Charlene Gibbs, otherwise known as Nahneen Kula. Charlene is a professional ribbon microphone technician, musician, producer, and audio engineer. Out of the need to capture the recordings of her own music, she just so happens to build some of her own microphones and preamps. Charlene, welcome to the show, and thank you for joining me.
Hi.
Hi. My first question I have is if you could please let us know a little bit more history about how you got started with building your own recording equipment.
Well, kind of a long story there. When we first started recording, Sammy, my boyfriend, and I, when we first met, we put our equipment together, and I don't even know what microphone I had at the time, but I think I had a Rode NT2A, and I had access to a Perlman TM2, and I think the nicest piece of equipment I owned was RME Babyface, but we're like, we can't record our bands with these these two mics and this interface. What are we doing? But also, we don't really have money to buy all this expensive stuff. Like, what do we start with? Do we buy a console? Do we get a preamp that has 16 channels? Like, what is the secret to making our stuff sound good? And that kind of was the basis of our recording and audio equipment making. That was kind of like the catalyst, was us just being unsure with what was I'd say like the missing link in our signal chain, and what we needed to do to make our recording sound like good and professional. So for a while, we were trying out different interfaces, thinking, oh, that sound good, but obviously those are just a means to get audio into your computer, not necessarily stuff to sound good. And basically around 2012, I'd say, Sammy started researching this company called Classic API, or CAPI, and there's this preamp called the VP26, which was based off of original preamp design for API console. And so we got one of those, a pre-made CAPI VP26, and we bought a lunchbox because API lunchboxes were like around $400 at the time. We thought, you know what, this could be a good investment, because if we get a lunchbox, then at least we can fill in the other channels with other preamps that are affordable. Because the cool thing about the CAPI stuff was it was under $300, around that area. While, other Neves were like $1,000. If you buy API preamp, like what? $3,000 later, you only have like a few channels of nice pre's. So we are going to try out this VP26 that someone had already made, and then see, well, if it sounds good, we'll just buy the kits to make them ourselves. And it ended up sounding fantastic. It was the first time we put the SM57 through a real preamp. We're like, oh, that's why people say it's a valuable tool. Because before we were like, why do people like these mics so much? And kind of opened our horizon to using professional preamps, getting good color, learning how to also build equipment. Because from there, we bought more preamp kits from Cappy, and we've made 5 other preamps.
Nice.
From them. Yeah. So that was the start, and then it just went insane after that. Yeah. So
you were definitely able to get a lot more recording done with that.
Yeah, definitely. And it was our first example of this is what professionals use. These are the kinds of tools and preamps that are in a real studio. So, yeah, and that was, I think, around 2012-ish. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, thank you. And when we spoke previously, you mentioned that you think of, I wanted to touch on this because I thought it was interesting, that you think of songwriting and recording as the same when it comes to your creative process. And I was going to ask you if you could elaborate a little bit more on that.
Yeah, I definitely think they go hand in hand for me because, some people, they go into the studio and they record their songs and like, those are the takes and this is our band and we jam and these are the songs. But growing up as a only child, I kind of felt like I had to kind of do everything myself. So when it came to like arranging music and recording and like making sounds and even like playing drums or something like that, which I don't do, but I felt like I had to take over all these roles. And when I was recording the record, I realized that recording the songs and with vocals and guitar wasn't like the final take on the song. It was about like morphing the song and producing it to a way that I feel is emphasizing the emotional or like giving a better emotional impact for the listeners. It goes hand in hand for me.
Yeah, the songwriting and the recording. Yeah, when I first started, I just wanted to write the songs, and it wasn't until I got my first little TAC 4-track that I realized that I could record things.
Yeah.
I was about 17 at the time, I think. And then I realized, I can put my vocals on one track and I can put my guitar on another track.
Yeah.
Yay!
Yeah.
But,
yeah, that's so cool. It's kind of interesting to hear that a lot of people still, like from this generation, had started recording on tape, while a lot of the people who are probably starting recording now are probably starting on interfaces. But like I started recording on cassette tapes. That was my first foray in like elementary school or like junior high. Just like, wow, look what we can do.
Yeah, cassette tapes are a lot of fun. I wanted to ask you, speaking of the album, Put It With Mine, I wanted to ask you about the mixing of your music. When I was listening to various artists on Bandcamp, I played your song Distance, and I noticed like right off the bat that there were actually dynamics with the level in your music, and it was just such a pleasant surprise to find some other music out there that had good dynamics and was still actually very present when you listen to it. But I was just wondering if you could talk a little bit more about that. Like you're more about the sound of the song and the sound rather than just making it loud.
Yeah, well, I mean, coming from that perspective, I mean, you can say that some people may start their productions, especially with electronic music, like, okay, so we need to make this part all hyped up, and like this better make the impact for the level to drop here and this and that. But I mean, for me, it doesn't necessarily start with dynamics in mind or having a nice even output level. It comes, I would say, my like production or composition background is more classical in a sense, if that makes sense, like classical music. Okay. Where the sky's the limit to what I want the outcome of the dynamics to be. So, but in terms of like how I got the song mastered for the dynamic range, we were really concerned about we were kind of the opposite of the loudness war. We were really concerned about losing dynamics in the mastering stage. And Sammy, who's not the most snarkiest audiophile, but still very concerned with not slamming and over limiting the music, like was constantly analyzing the dynamic range of my record to just make sure that there was like a good balance between it sounding loud, but it not also sounding like it was overdone.
Right.
Because you definitely hurt the music by over limiting. It just sounds completely different.
Also, the use of panning throughout the album is really sweet. So I just wanted to compliment you because I think you really have a great ear. And the vocals on Unless, I wanted to ask you a little bit more about that. How did you record it, and what did you use on that vocal? I know there's probably I don't know how many vocals actually.
In which part of the song?
I know, right? But no, that song really strikes me, and that's one that I would like to play at the end of the show because it just. I mean, I hear your voice over on the left and then on the right, and then I hear your voice on, I think this is the right song. I hear your voice on the right, and then I hear the delay on the left. What did you use to record it? What did you use to record that vocal?
For most of the album, I used our Telefunken 251, our personal made Telefunken 251. It's not. It was one of the microphones that we built specifically for this record for me to record my vocals, and I used primarily the Cappy 312 that we built as well, and at some point in time I also used some Neves that we built, like a preamp based off of the 1073.
Okay.
So I'm pretty sure that was all. The interesting about the recording this record was the fact that I kind of was waiting on, like, well, what microphone am I going to use? Am I going to rent one? or do I have to save a lot of money to buy a really expensive one? Do I need to borrow it from someone? Or do we just make one? And eventually we just went out and Sammy and our friend and coworker, Nathan Bowers, he and Sammy basically built the microphone from scratch with a Tim Campbell capsule, and a really good investment because it sounds great, and we only made it for about $700. So
nice.
Yeah.
Nice. And I had another question. What are, and you might need some time to think about it, I don't know, but what are your three favorite tools to use when you're recording?
When I'm recording?
Yes.
Well, what's interesting about that versus now Charlene versus past Charlene is now I'm just... The record was really set a stage for me to learn about microphones and recording, and I had some experience in working in other studios and trying to figure out what tools were available to me there, but really until I got to my personal space with my own studio, I can really figure out what tools I thought were the most useful. And back then, like I would say like 4 or 5 years ago, I'd probably say something like a SM57, my converter or something like that. But now, since I'm at a totally different stage in my experience, especially with the microphones that I have access to at my job at AEA, I would completely have different response. Yeah, because now the question is complicated because I love it. It's like when you ask an engineer, like, what's your desert island equipment? And they're like, ooh, they don't really know what to say. Because as an engineer, I'd probably have a different response than like the producer Charlene for the record. Mm-hmm. Like my favorite tools for working on the record probably were obviously in my microphone, the 251, but also my soft synth a reactor, which is basically a host for people to build synthesizers in. Okay. And the program is just so crazy because you can build from synthesizers to arpeggiators, effects boxes, all kinds of things. And if I didn't have access to the synthesizers that people have made in Reactor, I think the album would sound completely different, and I wouldn't have been able to access the sounds that I really love, or be able to make the sounds I really love, just because Reactor is, and the programs that people have made in Reactor are just so crazy. Sometimes you can't even recreate synthesizers made in that program with synthesizers that already exist.
Right.
Yeah. Another tool that record or producer Charlene would like, am I talking to myself about myself? Is the LA2A compressor. Mm-hmm. It is like the most simple compressor. Basically, it just has a gain and a peak reduction. It's like the compressor for the laziest people in the world, which is me. And but I have been able to really dial it in, and I used that compressor for basically all of my records going into the converters. So I like compressed to tape, or I compressed to the DAW on the way in.
Right.
And I don't think my vocals would have sound the same without it. So
Yeah.
with going on about the recording tools that I like in general, probably would be a couple microphones that we make here at AEA. It would be our stereo microphone, the R88, and the N22 ribbon microphone, which I'm using right now to talk to you. Yeah.
That's cool. That's cool.
Those tools are... Oh, you know what? I totally forgot something that just totally overlaps between these two categories. Are my monitors. Oh my gosh. We have two pairs now of ProAct Studio 100s, and those monitors just changed my life. Oh my goodness. There's nothing like having a good pair of monitors that really resonate, no pun intended, with you. So
yeah. I have yet to find some. I'm saving up to get some good studio monitors.
Yeah, dude, it's just changed my life. Because before I dabbled with we had some KRKs at some point. I had these PS monitors, some like Samsons that I got conned into buying when I was 16 at Smash. And some other weird stuff. And, of course, monitor setup plays into that. But, I mean, we were going insane trying to figure out, well, maybe if we set them up correctly, they'll sound good. No, you need good monitors. There's no other way around it.
And for your monitors, do you have that special foam that goes underneath that, like, I think it's, I think a lot of companies make them.
Decouplers?
Is that what they're called?
Yeah, that's, I think, one of the terms for them. Before, we were actually using cinder blocks.
Okay.
Cinder blocks to basically, we'll have like two stacked cinder blocks, and then put the monitor on there, and right around there is the ear level of like a pretty good height to start at, and those are pretty good at decoupling the speakers from the floor or your furniture, wherever they are. But now we use ISO acoustics.
Okay.
And those are basically like a specific technology that decouples really well, and I strongly recommend people getting ISO acoustics. They're awesome.
Cool. Yeah, and then because I was going to ask you actually about mixing, what are some of your favorite tools for mixing? Like, well, I'll just be frank. What do you like to use for your reverbs and delays on your vocals?
There are a few things. I use Lexicon reverbs, and I usually use room reverbs, or like chamber style reverbs. I don't really dabble with anything else just because it doesn't make sense for a lot of the ambiance I'm trying to create. But I also use like stock verbs in Logic, like Space Designer or whatever. And there's some other plugins I like to use, like what is it? Sound Toys, and then there's another company that I like to use. Sound Toys has a delay called Echo Boy, and that works really well. I also use like the Waves H delay and Verb as well. I love plugins. Oh my goodness. Uh-oh.
I love delay and reverb too. I'm always trying to experiment with different sounds because the reverb that you choose can change the song. So
definitely.
So it's really interesting when I feel like I find some music where the choice of reverbs and delays actually match the vibe or the feeling of the song. That always strikes me as like, oh, that's a great production. Listen to that, So that was one of the things I really liked about the song Unless, is that I really felt like it had a lot of different elements in there, but it just kind of struck me for some reason that song I really, really like the production of it and the sound of the vocals throughout and the panning of the effects and everything. It was a really nice experience.
Yeah, well, with reverb, reverb is interesting because you can overuse it too, and you can also use bad reverb. There's a thing. Bad reverb is a thing, and I like using reverb as an effect and also to make space, because making space with reverb is the most common way of like why you would use reverb in the first place. But like I'd experiment with using like mono reverb or panning, putting reverb on a bus and then like panning it, so that you have dry vocals on the right and like the wet on the left, or same with delay. You mentioned like, whoa, what's that echo on the left for some reason on the vocals on the right. Either I actually sample the audio or just take a bit and physically make an appearing seemingly echo on the left, but usually it'd just be some kind of time-based plugin that I'd just be kind of automating and kind of adding dry and wet, playing with all those kind of features at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds really great. Now, you're not just working on your own stuff, but you're also working on other projects. Can you talk a little bit more about the other projects you've been working on?
Yeah, the latest record I did was for Sammy's band, Tubby Boots. And if it wasn't clear, Sammy plays bass in my band, but he also plays bass in a band that he's been in for like 10 years. And they still, after 10 years, they still haven't had a debut record. Similar to my experience, because my record also took pretty much the same amount of time. But yeah, Sammy and I work for AEA Ribbon Mics, and the building has been here for 30 years. Don't quote me on that. I'm just saying a lot. It's been here for a while, and not only do we manufacture audio equipment here and microphones, we also have like a nice studio here with a monitor, mixing room, and a really nice space to record in with really high ceilings and acoustically treated room. And we've been working really hard to spruce up and get equipment for the recording aspect of AEA, because it just really wasn't being used for that as a while. For instance, the room that I'm actually in right now, our control room, used to be used primarily for a while as forensic audio work. So if like court cases needed audio analyzed, my boss and other employees here would be doing that. I don't really understand what forensic audio work really even entails, but
me neither.
yeah. So anyway, we brought our tape machine here, and Nathan brought his tape machine here, and we've configured everything so that we can record to tape and into the computer, and we've brought all our equipment here now to record. And Sammy's band Tubby Boots finally got all the songs that they wanted to lay down, and we spent a couple days here recording about 5 or 6 songs, something like that, to cap off some songs that were previously recorded at another studio. But we used Atari MTR 90 24 track to record everything, and then we did vocals straight to the computer. But it's just really cool because we basically used microphones that we make. There's nothing like making a microphone and then using it the same day.
Yeah, that must be an incredible feeling.
Yeah, it's really neat. It's like you're there at the birth, and then you follow it through to not to the end, but to recording. And so we used a lot of ribbon mics on the record, and Sammy asked me to mix the record here at AEA, and that was mixed in the box in Logic. And we didn't really use that much outboard gear for effects, but we did end up using like compression for some overdubs, like the LA2A. We have a Manley Very Mew and DW Fern VT7, and those were used on the record and for like post for mastering and stuff.
What was the last one you said? It was DW what?
DW Fern VT7. It's a vacuum tube compressor.
Oh, okay. I haven't heard of that one yet. I'm gonna have to look that one up.
Yeah, it's excellent tube equipment. Doug Fern, he's also super nice.
Cool.
He's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, mixing his record was really interesting because I'm just so familiar with their work, yet they're a 3-piece, and it's way more stripped down than my music. There's usually just one main vocal and maybe another harmony or something. And Sammy wanted the record to be just really natural sounding. And he wanted to, I kind of had to change everything that I was, my complete mentality from work, like being fresh off of working on my record, to switching over and work on this really, really simple yet meticulous tracks that needed to sound really like they were in the room, yet be, at a sound good, basically professional, and sound like people wanted to something people could actually listen to. I don't know.
Yeah, it does actually have that vibe. When I was listening to it, it is very different from your music. But when I was listening to Tubby Boots, especially with the headphones on, I really felt like I was in a room with a band. Like I was there and I was listening.
That's exactly what they're going for.
Yeah.
That's exactly. They want you to be able to go, if they were playing in this room and they're like, okay, please come see us play, then it'd just be the same experience. You wouldn't need any like extra work being done, which is completely opposite of my music and the way that we try to present ourselves live, even though I still feel like I don't do that great of a job playing my music live. So.
Well, I can kind of understand that because of the so many different instruments and everything going on. I mean, not unless you use a sequencer or something, which is possible, but it's just kind of, for me, I found out like when I watch a band play live and I hear a flute, but I don't see a flute, I'm like, where did that come from, you know?
They're going to get it. Yeah. They're going to get it from you. You better go tell them. Yeah, I hate that. I hate that so much. But, you know, listening to these songs, like, what am I going to do? Where are these, like, where are all these synthesizers and crazy effects that are on them gonna come from? What, right. Like so many different kinds of sounds. So the way that I try to incorporate all that extra stuff in our live performance is by sampling the stems of certain instruments that were kind of time based, applying different transients of the audio samples to notes on a keyboard. So my keyboard is Austin Page. He would play a note, and then it'd be like a small snippet of a part, if that makes sense. But if he plays like C, D, E, and the same in like a timed manner, then the sounds would make sense, like it flow together. So I wanted to do that because I didn't want to play with playback, and also with these great musicians. So I play with Sammy Austin and Cameron Miller, our drummer. We wanted to be able to just rock out, and you know, if we kind of go off time, or if we want to just emphasize something a little more, or like any contingencies were to happen, we want to be able to just we didn't want to have to like be a slave to some click or playback that's looming over us. So right. That was one way. Thank God for Ableton. That's all I say. I love it.
That's funny. And then, is there anything else you would like to add in regards to your music or AEA ribbon mics or anything?
I mean, there's one aspect that I guess we didn't really touch on was bringing the stems in, because the stems into the tape machine. I don't know why I did this, but I put my music to tape. So basically, I'd record or do some MIDI stuff, and then I'd bring stems over and flush it to our MCI GH16 24 track. So basically that is like 12 stereo channels that I'd try to bring in audio from the computer. And as much as I love the sound and the effect and the the JH16 definitely has like a color and a flavor to it. It's a 1970s machine. It's older. It still was just like a huge pain in the ass just because of tape wobble in certain parts. If I wanted to go back and record some extra stuff, you know, I unless I beat mapped it, it was lost to click, and it was just a crazy experience. And I know I sound bitter about it, but I actually really like it.
Well, I think it got the great results from it.
Yeah. And so a lot of the songs have like some like tape version, not versions, tape stems like mixed into it. And I think the main reason why I wanted to do it was because I wanted to record my vocals to tape. So I would like, for instance, on Distance and Lunch, I think, and A Laughing, those are all vocals that I sang to tape after I put the stems in, and then I brought everything back in. Sometimes I would just bring the vocals in depending on how complex the arrangement was. It was just really crazy. Also, the JH16 just breaks all the time too. Oh my goodness, that tape machine is the bane of my experience. Life.
So what breaks on it? What?
Oh my goodness, just everything. You look at it and it breaks. The main hub and logic center for the tape machine is kind of built on Molex connectors, basically those little pins that you can drop in circuit boards on. But since these PCBs are just so old, they kind of just pop out after a while. Ooh. And if you don't have like secured your board secured in there, you can get like weird just like weird problems happen, and like the tape machine it'll just fry itself.
Oh no.
Yeah, so that was interesting. Also, getting tape for the tape machine is interesting because since we were too poor to buy fresh tape, we had to buy used tape. So there'd be people around this area in LA that would kind of sell tape that studios were just discarding. And sometimes the tape would be sticky because it wasn't kept in the right place. Like if you kept it in a hot area, or and eventually tape just gets sticky just because some of the tape brands are not as good as others. So it was kind of a weird time period trying to figure out that. But I don't know, nothing. If I didn't record Sammy's record to tape, it would sound completely different. So I love the tape machine. It's just the JH16 is just, it hates everyone. It hates itself. The Atari, though, the MTR90 is fantastic. Oh my god, so good. But it doesn't have the same sound. So
right.
Yeah, it doesn't have the same sound.
Wow, that's a lot of endurance to work with, to have to
kind of put up with.
Yeah, to have to put up with while you're trying to create, and to have something fail and then have to go back and have to fix it and redo it or whatever. Yeah. That is a lot to to deal with, especially because you're the artist as well. So
yeah, I mean, you're touching on something that kind of ties into the producing is the same thing as the songwriting to me. I don't think I would have been the same or have the same knowledge if I didn't have the opportunity to put all this stuff together, go through all these iterations of different microphones and building these preamps. And I don't think I'd be the same kind of engineer or producer opposed to someone who was just walking into a studio and learned from another engineer, and those are the tools you used, and we use a SSL console, and this is what you learn on, and that's it. Like, you learned how to record, and now you're going to record bands with these really nice mics, but like they didn't have that whole like strife experience.
Exactly.
They didn't necessarily have the opportunity to kind of do all these ABs with like equipment. But the thing is, I think most people are in my shoes with home studios and like project studios, since this stuff is just so accessible now. You don't have to like go to Capitol Records or someplace weird to record. You can just try to figure it out yourself. I just think building the equipment just adds a whole other layer and intricacy to like the experience of audio.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Yeah.
I really recommend people just tinkering more with their equipment, just to see what it's like. Because I definitely know some engineers that like flat out refuse to repair their own equipment. And I mean, they might be smart, like they don't want to fuck it up or anything, but it's like almost feels like they don't have the confidence to do it. And I just think that's kind of weird, because you're right. You totally gain a new appreciation for what it is. The real, like the secret,
right?
The secret. Because when I first went to studios and stuff, and I produced a record for my friend John Nagel when I was 19, and we were recording some studios, and I had a lot of opportunity to mentor under a friend now, Ollie Niku at Blaster Master Productions in Hollywood, and just seeing all the equipment and not having any experience with the insides of it kind of like alienated me in a way, because so much of our stuff now, well, I'm thinking like retroactively, because so much of our stuff now we've built on our own. And now when I think of like, oh, that stuff that I don't really know what's going on in there, it's kind of like, what is that? What is that stuff? I don't know it as intimately as I do as the equipment that we've made and is just as awesome. Yeah. So
yeah,
it's an interesting kind of relationship.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And I think it shows in the music, especially with Put It With Mine. So, yeah, definitely. So where can people go to purchase your music?
iTunes, Bandcamp. If you just go to Nahneen Kula, Nahneenkula. Yeah, never mind. If you go there, you can just see what kind of links are that can push you off into different directions, where to find me. So.
All right. And I'll add those links in the show notes. And then where can people go to learn more about AEA microphones?
You can just go to www.ribbonmics.com.
That's great that you guys have that name, that ribbonmics.com. That's excellent.
Yep, Ribbon Mics is our thing.
Yeah.
I don't think we would not have the name ribbonmics.com.
If you didn't make ribbon mics, right?
Yeah, it would be, something would be wrong. So.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I just wanted to thank you for your time, and I really appreciate it. And thank you for coming on my new little podcast here. And I think people are really going to get a lot out of this, because there's you shared a lot of really great information about what it has taken to put something like this together, especially from the ground up, dude. Literally from
don't start, guys, don't
from building your own stuff and then recording with it.
It's worth it. Yeah, totally worth it.
Yeah,
if you really want to feel like you're a part of it from start to finish, I suggest just get in there.
You're in for a real treat when I play Nahneen Kula's song Unless in just a moment. You'll also get to hear a song she mixed called Mora Son by Tubby Boots. Just a couple of very quick announcements before your ear candy. Today's show was brought to you by Mahi Cats. Mahi Cats are a haunting, edgy dream rock group with a new EP called Songs from the Woods. Check them out at mahicat.com. Also, a very special shout out to RKC, Radio Chaos Caribou, for all the retweets and excellent quality online radio. You'll find links to Nahneen Kula, Tubby Boots, Mahi Cats, and RKC in the show notes. Please visit ladyaudio.com and join the email list. You'll stay up to date with new weekly episodes. You'll also find links to give us a like on Facebook and follow me directly on Twitter. If you are interested in being interviewed on the Lady Audio podcast or would like to learn more about becoming a sponsor, please send me an email at clara@ladyaudio.com. Thank you so much. Talk to you soon. Bouncing through